So there's my boiling setup. We got a 20 pounder. I think that's a 55,000 BTU boiler. Or burner, I guess. That's a 17-gallon bucket from, or pot, kettle, whatever you want to call it, from when I used to brew a lot of beer. Pretty fancy. We already have a thermometer on the side and a ball valve that we can use to I washed the inside, but I didn't do a very good job of rinsing the outside. That we can use to drain the hot fluid into a smaller pot or container. So we've got two 20 pounders. Hopefully that'll be enough to get it down to a reasonable size. And like I said, if I burn the first one out real quick, then I'll run to town or send the wife to town to get another tank. Well, we had to come up with another game plan for our boiling sap. With the propane burner in the big pot was just taking way too long. Me and Wilson went and gathered up everything else, the buckets, the spiles, taps, hoses, buckets, you name it. And we've got about 10 gallons or so boiling in the big pot still, and had lots more to do, so I got a fire going in a couple small pots and put them on the fire. So you can see we got a fire going, boiling up. There's about 2 gallons in that small pot, so I guess 4 gallons in the bigger pot. So 6 gallons there. We've probably got 2 gallons in that bucket. There's a big chunk of ice that we're just going to toss out. But still a lot of sap. So we're going to keep this going, keep the other one going. And when I get down to about 3 gallons or so, I'll put it into this, I'll filter everything and put it into this small pot. And I'll boil it nice and slow on this fire and keep a real good eye on it. But I'm guessing I've got probably another 2 or 3 hours here. This took way longer than what I was expecting. But if you do your homework, you'll know that this is a time-consuming process. Well, it's a gorgeous day today, and we're just finishing up the maple syrup that we froze from a couple weeks ago. So I'm back from work. We had 5 gallons in the freezer. We're down to 3-ish, 3.5. So we're just going to let this go in the big pot for now. I had it separated into 2 pots, but it's a little easier to watch when there's more volume. It's a little slower, but that's alright. It's beautiful out, so it's a good day to do the boil and drink a few cold ones. But we've got the small pot cleaned up, rinsed it out, got rid of any pine needles and other debris that might be in the pots. Cleaned it out, used a dish towel as our filter. I soaked it in some clean water and wrung it out a few times to make sure there was no like dish soap residue or anything like that. It is clean, it was in the dishwasher, but just to make sure that we could get out any little extra bit that's there. So we got, we're going to boil this down just a little bit more, maybe another gallon, half a gallon. And I've got an instant read thermometer. Hopefully you can see that. This is Lava Tools, it's the Javelin. It's an instant read, so it within a couple seconds it reads. You don't have to wait for it to climb and settle in, so it's pretty nice. But yeah, we're just going to let it go for a bit longer, and once it's boiled down a bit more, then I'm going to dump it out of the big bucket or big pot into the small pot, put it back on the wood fire, just off to the side so I can watch it slowly. The sap turns to syrup when you're about 7 degrees above your boiling temperature. So here I'm boiling pretty close to 212. Sometimes it's 211, you know, 212. It's in that ballpark. So we'll let it get up to 219, 218, 219, and then we've got some syrup. So we're lucky we've got some cold ground with all this snow. So as soon as we hit that temperature, I'm just going to take the pot off the fire and drop it onto the snow and let it cool, so we can handle a little bit easier. And then I've got some canning jars in the house that are all cleaned and ready to go. So that's what we're doing. So here we got the water bath going. We're ready to stick the cans in. I already started to fill some of the mason jars with our syrup, making sure to use the funnel and leather gloves. Everything's pretty hot. I found the best way to fill the mason jars was just to pour from the pot directly into the mason jars using the funnel. I tried a ladle, but I ended up making more of a mess than I should have. And just installing the seal and the locking ring and getting them ready to go in the bath for about 10 minutes, and then out they come to cool. And make sure the seals all pop. And there's what we ended up with. We ended up with about 4.5 liters of syrup versus 45 gallons of sap. So pretty cool.